Your secret to career success isn't found in applying for the job at the right time or having the perfect resume or LinkedIn profile. Your career success is based on connecting with real people and being one yourself. As you build your mid career GPS, you must take time to slow down and connect with people on a much deeper level so you can build your personal board of directors who will advocate for your career growth and development. Today, I am joined by Dominic Imwali. Dominic is a senior consultant with Deloitte and the founder of DX Consulting. In this episode, you'll learn why Dominic took advantage of a phenomenal work assignment to elevate his career, how to look at your career in terms of what you have control over and don't, as well as what it means to network with real people to build your personal board of directors to ensure your career success. So let's get started. Hello, my friends. This is the Mid-Career GPS podcast, and I'm your host, John Nerrell. I help mid-career professionals like you find a job they love or love the job they have using my proven four-step formula. My guest today is Dominic Imwali. Dominic knows that landing your dream role doesn't happen by chance or with him creating an offer letter for you. His most successful clients know it takes hard work, patience, and perseverance. And when they do, they make massive career pivots, find clarity in what they want to do, and land their target roles quicker and make more money. Born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio, Dominic is an avid sports fan who enjoys being active and spending time with family and friends. He's a real person, and you will quickly learn what that means and why it is important he only connects with real people as well. So, it is my pleasure to introduce you to Dominic Imwali. Hey there, Dominic. Welcome to the show. It's great to have you here.
Yeah, John, thanks for having me. So excited to be here with you today.
Yeah, we've had a great connection on LinkedIn. It's been so much fun following you and getting to know you a little bit. I appreciate the conversations we've had leading up to this. You've got such a fascinating story, and I know it's one my listeners today are really going to appreciate. But Dominic, you got to tell us, what was your mid-career moment that had the most impact in your career so far?
Definitely jumping right into it. And yeah, definitely have loved our conversation to date so far and super excited to be here. And the mid-career moment for me is when I think back to my early time at Deloitte and I was sitting in a downtown Cleveland apartment in a room with no windows. It had a window to the hallway to count as an official room. And I was sitting there doing the work, right? Knocking out the work, showing up for the work, but I just wasn't having fun, wasn't happy with where I was at. I wanted a business to be booming. I wanted to be traveling. It was, we're a year or two into COVID at this point, and that was just a moment where I look back on it and it stings so much. But I'm also so proud of the person I remained in it professionally as I moved through things. So it was the constant conversations, the constant, hey, where can I help you out? How can I make life easier? And I look back on that moment, that time period of my life where I was, so frustrated at the time, and it's just that year or two of just my head down, pure work, helping people out has, magnified the 2 years later and all the exposure and life experiences I've had over the last 2 years with Deloitte, and outside building my own business as well. So that was just that mid moment where I was like, hey, I'm not too happy here. Things need to change. And I look to that as the defining moment. There's going to be some more defining moments we talk about today, but that's the one that hits home.
Yeah, and the thing that comes up for me, Dominic, in hearing you is how powerful that word help is, right? We know the brain's triggered very differently when we hear the word help, but for someone like you who is at mid-career, but admittedly a little bit more toward the younger part of being mid-career, why is it for you that communicating how you can help someone has elevated your career in the way that it has? Why is that so powerful for you?
I'd say it's because I've always prioritized exposure. right? I'm coming up, the clock just keeps clicking. Or ticking 5 years at Deloitte here soon. And I think the word help continues to come up because in those early years, it was just the thought of how can I get as much experience as I can in this short period of time? Because everyone jumps into public accounting or consulting and they say, oh, I'll spend 2 years here and then I'll exit. And we're not seeing that anymore at Deloitte, especially, right? We're seeing these people have these elongated careers. And I also wanted to I wanted to enjoy the people I worked with. And what better way to figure out, hey, who do I actually enjoy helping? Who do I want to show up to? And then once I started to nail down those professionals and those peoples that, I enjoyed being around, they also started to pull me into different rooms. So help just slowly turned into exposure. And then all of a sudden I'm in rooms where, hey, I thought it might take me 3 to 4 years to get here. Oh, there's managers that have never had this experience. And then even right in my own business side, right? There's that whole other side. Once I started to focus on, hey, how can I just get exposure with podcasts, interviews, one-on-one coaching sessions with folks? How can I, provide more help also in that business? And it just falls on that word exposure. I've prioritized it relentlessly in this early part of my career, and it's paid off tremendously.
You do a lot on LinkedIn. You've got a great LinkedIn following. And one of the things that stood out for me as I was looking at your about section is you talk about spending time with real people. And in this day and age, especially, we see AI being more prominent, and everybody seems to be in such a frantic rush. To hear somebody talk about slowing down and spending time with real people is very refreshing. So the question, Dominic, is this: in your experience, what's a real person?
What's a real person and what does that look like to me? It's an awesome question and it's one of my favorite things to do right now as I'm working with people. I'm still able to hold these raw one-on-one sessions. I've had a couple this week and I leave on fire. I leave having a ton of fun and obviously I hope that for the job seeker as well, although there's a ton of work. But that real person, that piece I'm talking about is you kind of hear it all the time when someone's starting out. Oh, you don't really know how to run a business yet, or hey, you don't really know how to do X, Y, and Z yet. And one of the biggest things that I come across on LinkedIn or when I'm talking to job seekers is like, hey, you don't know how to network. You think you do, but you don't. Here's what it looks like. And so once you go down that rabbit hole of, oh, can you look John in the eyes and have an actual conversation? Can you, if you're in person, can you shake their hand and not pull out your phone for 10 minutes? That's starting to become that real person that I talk about. Can you tell a story about your, career that you just love to talk about, or a time that you messed up, or a time you were given feedback? Getting into more of those rawer moments is that real person I'm talking about, because I want you to come across people and be able to uncover that and not just sit on the sidelines as oh, I think I know that person pretty well. Maybe I could reach out to them for this. So that's what comes to mind when I think of a real person. It's a good one.
And I like how you walked us through that. So when you think about how you've built your network at Deloitte, how much time would you say, whether it be every day or every week, do you spend time engaging in those intentional interactions and conversations where you just really get to spend time getting to know somebody?
Yes. And I'd say as I've gotten more senior, that time has grown less and less, or it just shows up in a different light, right? That 2 years that I was talking about earlier in Cleveland, at least 2 to 3 conversations per week. I have a OneNote full of at least 100 professionals that I've connected with. And truth be told, all those conversations were not awesome. Like some of them just were right, complete rocks, or just didn't do anything. They didn't know, right? And that was for me to learn and me to figure out how, hey, how do I have a better conversation? Is this even like, does Dominic even want to talk to that person? I think that's something we don't ask ourselves as well. But yes, as you're kind of going through your week, I always try to I don't want to fall victim to having a recurring one-on-one that, comes up every single week and we're just holding it to hold it. I do want to, hey, can I ask them a question, or at least pull myself back and say, what do I have to learn from this person? I don't think we do that enough and that's part of that real person we were just talking about a second ago, is like, how do I unlock the raw version of those people I'm trying to connect with? And it is, right? Like when I'm working with the job seekers right now, it at least has to be 1 to 2 conversations per week, just 30-minute blocks or whatever you can get, but it does take diligent focus, as you said.
Well, not only that, but it's also about knowing the boundaries or the filters that we have in terms of whether, to your point earlier, we want to continue that conversation. There can be a lot of power in saying to somebody, "Look, I appreciate the time. I don't think this is going to go anywhere, so let's just not put a conversation on the calendar because, right? Maybe we come back at a certain point in time." And I think that's one of the things, especially when we're networking, we have to be really clear in terms of who's a good person in our network and who isn't. And it's okay if they're not, because we're not going to be the right person for everybody either.
Of course, I want people to start where it's easy. And so that oftentimes just means like, oh, I'll just hit up everyone in my, that first circle. And it's and you pull yourself back and you stop and you think for a second where you want to go and who you need to talk to. And you start to connect the dots and you quickly realize, why did I go into that conversation and immediately seek advice? I don't love the life that person lives or what they do or their job. And all of a sudden they're, telling me where I need to job search or where I need to go in my career. And so that's kind of one of those reasons also that I think it's awesome to be intentional with, who you're speaking with. Good point there.
So, talking about being intentional, you had a recent career move that was very intentional and one which I know my listeners are going to be a little excited to hear about because not everybody gets that kind of opportunity. You did a 3-month assignment where?
In Indonesia. So I was based in Jakarta.
Okay. Talk to us a little bit about
Yeah.
how that whole experience came about.
Definitely. I haven't had the chance to talk about it a lot publicly, and I think I will here in the next couple years as I go. But for me, it was okay. What is the challenge this year? I love to take on ridiculous tasks, whether that's personal, physical, whatever that may be. And there was an opportunity to go serve our client with some mining operations in Jakarta, and that also Indonesia, and that also meant traveling around the Indonesian islands and meeting with folks, helping carry out business process consulting and whatnot. That also meant whole new culture, whole new language, and being a part of a different Deloitte member firm, right? It's a huge organization, but you're part of a different structure. And so it took me to some pretty wild places. It was actually supposed to be a year long, ended up getting cut a little bit short due to some governmental relations that, just part of the game that I had to navigate. But that experience is one that I will forever cherish just because the ability to be around different, just immerse yourself and figure out, hey, what's working over here? What doesn't? How do I need to, communicate differently or show up differently in a different light? And then, I'd love to get back there one day and bring some family as well.
Hey there. You know that navigating a job search in the middle of your career isn't just about updating your resume or polishing your LinkedIn profile. It's about making the right move without the overwhelm and doing it strategically. That's why I created something just for you. The Mid Career Job Search Jumpstart is a powerful step by step guide designed to help you clarify your goals, find time to job search, and avoid making a move you'll regret. And here's the best part, you can grab the Jumpstart for just $1. That's right, $1 for a guide that can save you hours of stress and frustration. So to grab the Jumpstart, visit my website at johnneral.com/resources or click the show notes for the link. Together, let's take that first step towards your next job or promotion and start building your mid-career GPS with greater clarity, more confidence, and a proven plan. Now, let's get back to the episode. Well, an incredible experience for sure, because not all of us get those kind of opportunities, right? To just
Yep.
go across the world and have an opportunity to work and live. What I'm really curious about, Dominic, is that if you and I were to come back 10 years from now, and we were to be back on this microphone in 10 years, and I was to ask you, what was the biggest thing you learned from your time in Indonesia that has impacted your career throughout the last 10 years? What would you tell us?
I think in 10 years, I'm going to know a lot more. But at the moment, I would say there's a piece of, hey, you need to watch out for yourself and what's happening because there were a lot of things that Dominic could control and there were a lot of things Dominic couldn't control, whether it was governmental, whether it was with Deloitte and things like that. But I look back and I know the people around me and the leaders that, witnessed me go through everything I did, and they would look back and they would definitely share a sentiment of how calm I was. My whole goal as I went through visa issues, immigration, just all these different issues and, navigated just business requirements there and meetings and whatnot for senior leader stakeholders. The ability to just stay calm. Like I stood very tall and calm in that moment. And I think it just helped me grow because now my level for issues or problems needs to be so much more magnified for it actually to impact me, right? A lot of things for me now are no factor. Okay, hey, we missed on this coaching session, or hey, we missed on this deliverable. Okay, cool. What do we need to do next, instead of coming back to a puddle of sitting in there in doubt and letting that all creep up. I've felt just so much more confident as I come across different problems. So I think being that calm, cool, collective, and trying to stand tall in those moments where everything just seems to be up against the wall is probably that piece of advice I'd give myself.
Mhm. I like that a lot. And for our listeners, Dominic, so we're recording this at the end of February. This episode's going to drop sometime in April. And it goes without saying that, especially the last month, the time of this recording, we have seen a lot of changes happen, both at the federal government level, both at the corporate level. We're seeing ripple effects happen in terms of some changes, both in the overall job landscape and just the job market in general. And one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on the show is not just from this angle of confidence, but how you've built your network. And one of the things that you talk about and you advocate is having something called a personal board of directors, that group of people whom you keep really close, that they're there to help you and you're there to help them and stuff. Why is it so important, especially right now in 2025, that anyone who is listening to this episode work diligently at building a personal board of directors for their career growth?
Awesome question. And I got a couple hot ideas just firing right now. And I think one of them is that we open up an app, LinkedIn, it being that immediately raises our blood pressure. We get stressed out. We're wondering, hey, where do I go? What does this look like? And then we work somewhere. Say we're in an awesome job for a couple of years, but we always start to wonder, hey, what am I doing? Right. I talk with so many mid-career folks that are, hey, where does this role end up in 3 to 5 years? Or where do I pivot from here? And it's so important because if you log on to that app, there's 25 other Dominics telling you, hey, you should try this, or you should do this, or someone has a different brand approach to this and that. And it gets pretty overwhelming super fast. And so a question I've always tried to ask myself as I build that board of directors is, what if you played the game like you were always on offense? You were just trying to navigate these conversations and understand, okay, who can help me out here and give me a real feedback? Because that's what I love. I mean, I end my coaching sessions with it, asking the people I'm working with, hey, what's a piece of feedback? But I also need to, prioritize my own career when I go to people. So I have 3 to 5 people that I just like wholeheartedly trust. I give it all to them and I say, hey, right, I respect where you've been. I respect what you've done in the business. I want your input on where I'm headed in my career and I trust it. And at the same time, I would also want them to tell me, hey, Dominic, you have this all wrong. And I trust them to do that. And that's why I've put them in that position where I feel comfortable reaching out to them. But once you start to play the game like you're on offense, these things, these puddles of, let's just call it mud, confusion, not clear on where you're going, they just start to dissipate and they start to go away because you're at least talking it out. You're getting connected with people that are living the life you want, and that's who I hope is representing your board of directors that you're creating here in your professional world right now.
I really like that question about how would you play if you were on offense all the time. So, for someone who's listening who may feel like they don't have a big network or they don't have that personal board of directors of people with whom they believe they can explicitly trust. What tips or suggestions would you give for them to start building their board of directors right now?
Got it. Definitely. If you've missed out on this opportunity to build this group, because I know so many people have, I talk to them all the time that say, "Hey, Dominic, I don't even, right, there isn't, you are that person at this point. I don't know who to talk to." Start where it's easy for you. I don't want you to be on LinkedIn sending out 50 cold messages or nor emails. I want you to go where you've been involved before. If that's Boy Scouts, if that's church organizations, if that's, university alumni, bowling league, whatever that is, go where it's easy on yourself, because then the conversation isn't as stressful for you, at least to get started. And sure, hey, are those people in those groups living the life I want? Maybe they aren't. And so maybe, there's some more digging that you'll have to do, but at least just make it easy on yourself as you go to those groups, because then you'll get better at holding the conversation, because you're going to go have a few and you're going to absolutely drop the ball a couple times, just as I did, just as anyone else did who's trying to network. And so as you start to, find those people that are, hey, I talk to them. I like how they show up personally in their own life. I like how they show up to their, business role, whatever it may be, right? Hang around those people a little bit longer. Hey, what more information can I give? Hey, can we talk in 2 months after I've gone and done X, Y, and Z that you told me to? That's where I would start. So just trying to make it easy on yourself to have that first conversations is pivotal. And you've already invested in groups that, where this person probably sits. So go back to those groups, because it'll be 10 times easier to get started than out here on the internet.
Nice. So when someone starts where it's easy, they start meeting people, they start pulling people in a little bit closer. And now it comes time for feedback, right? So where there's trust, there can be feedback given, right? And you
Yep.
can take that feedback and run with it in that regard. When you think back on your personal board of directors, your network of advocates, as you call them, what would you say is the hardest piece of feedback you've ever received in your career?
Oh, I can give you a small one that I think is, I actually tell this around, I'll tell this out when I'm with a group of young adults or presenting professionally, is that I've sat in leadership rooms that most people my age just haven't had the chance to sit in. And I've also can be known to have a facial expression at times, just right, like on a Zoom call or whatnot. And I was sat down after a meeting and they said, "Hey, Dominic, if you want to be in these meetings, you'll need to watch your facial expressions as people, go through and talk through their opinions, hey, solutions and whatnot." So that's a small piece. When I look at my board of directors, the hardest piece of feedback, and I won't say there's like a general one sentence that just completely crushed me, but for me it was just think a bit bigger than where you grew up from. Because I'm from Ohio, I'm from the Cleveland area, and that's all I knew, and that's all I thought I was going to go to Ohio State, stay in Ohio, and hang out there. And I still love that area, but getting out of that bubble, going to a different place where I had no idea what was going on and just didn't know anything, was a great piece of feedback that I needed at the time, because at that moment I was just doing what everyone else did. And so accepting that, doing it, through the tears, through the painful moments, through the tough relationships with family, whatever it may be, it was well worth it in the end to kind of get out of, what I had always known.
Thank you for sharing that. That's not an
Definitely.
easy question to answer, and I appreciate you
No.
playing along with us today, because getting that difficult feedback, right? So especially, even if it's something like just, watching your facial expressions on a Zoom, that impacts your brand. That's what people get to experience you as. And so that's really powerful and helpful for people to kind of hear today. So thank you.
Yeah, and I there's a piece where people need to walk away from more of those conversations and simply just say you're right. Like what was I going to say in any of those moments, or just conversations that I'm currently having, right? That, hey, you're right. What I did was wrong. Here's what I can do next time, but for now you're right. And I think we should say that more often. But thank you, appreciate it.
Yeah. Dominic, when you think about how people are networking right now, and we're seeing people both with in-person networking events, networking on the job, networking on LinkedIn and on social media. Where do you think mid-career professionals right now are networking incorrectly?
Hmm. It's a great question. It's the It's the 15 minutes for coffee. It's right. But I think that's an answer you're going to get from every single person. So for me, what I've seen with the job seekers that I'm working with right now, it's okay, let me take this to LinkedIn right away. We talked about this earlier, but starting with who you know and the circles you already have, the top answer I always get, I've exhausted my network, Dominic. There's no one else I can reach out to. Really? Right. I always have to stop there and just push on that a little bit more because it's just something I've never believed in. But to take a template that I'm not a big fan of giving out networking templates and
Yeah.
whatnot, because to take a template and then burn through 50 to 100 people on LinkedIn, that's not networking. And I hate to put like what we call networking and what we don't call it, but that's one of the biggest places I see a hiccup right now because then you're missing out on good leads. But when you actually take the time to even add one sentence, oh, hey, I saw you had the chance to work with that company I did back in these years and we were doing X, like that opens a whole new door than you just copy and pasting, filling out their name, the role you're looking for and whatnot. That changes the game when you're able to attach some type of personal note. So go deep instead of, sending out 50 to 100 messages.
I like that. And I say to people I work with as well that you can uncover gold in the about section if people really took time to write a thoughtful about section and even include something personal in that. And also in their LinkedIn recommendations, you can pick up some common themes that can pull out so people actually feel like you invested and took some time in looking at their profile rather than just that cold, um, sterile, non-connecting type message on LinkedIn that we get that drives me nuts.
100%. I think it's also, and just to be fully transparent with everyone, it's led to my business booming.
Yeah.
Being able to go and talk to people and I send messages. I'm not afraid to say that. Sending messages to job seekers and going through their profile and researching where they've been and what they've done, and then adding a note around that, that opens up a different door. We have different conversations than when a year ago I used to, just send them a templated thing and it didn't go anywhere. They didn't respond. They didn't want to talk to Dominic just because he was a job search coach. So it's led to just awesome conversations that I genuinely appreciate and help me become a better professional.
Nice. Yeah, absolutely. The power of connection is so important right now. And I feel like having conversations like this hopefully are bringing people back to really taking the time to do that.
100%.
Hey, Dominic, I've enjoyed this conversation. I know people listening have as well. So as we start to wrap up here, what advice would you give someone to help them build their mid-career GPS?
Good one. It's better to be terrible for a season. There's a different word you could use, but I would remind yourself that it's better to just be genuinely bad for a little bit. Like go whether it's content creation, whether it's reaching out and trying to network, whether it's, hey, I want to put myself in front of leadership and give, be able to present. Well, you have to stumble a few times. So remembering that as you go through whatever hard piece of your career that you're trying to navigate right now. And then also this just hit me today, just being grateful for the experience that you have around yourself. For me to be able to do this podcast, for me to be able to post on LinkedIn this morning, interact with people I find genuinely cool, and just right have a 9 to 5 or have a job at the end of the day. There's so many people around us who are struggling either, hey, I don't know what this career looks like in 3 to 5 years. I don't love it, haven't loved it since I start. There's so many people out there you couldn't even imagine. And so be grateful for the experience you have right now as you're moving through your mid-career GPS.
Yeah, thank you for that. Those are two really powerful things. And I think sometimes we often overlook or kind of brush by sometimes just about being grateful, but there really is a lot of power in just pausing to appreciate that. And I am unquestionably grateful that you and I got a chance to connect and have this conversation. I look forward to staying connected with you as well. Hey, if people want to connect with you, find you, learn more about you and what you do, I'm going to turn the mic over to you. Tell us all the great places where people can find you and connect.
Definitely. I'm wholeheartedly focused on building conversations over applications. That's my program. That's what I post about every single day. I'm still working with job seekers one-on-one. So that's one-on-one raw coaching sessions. So if you're interested in that, you can definitely reach out to me on LinkedIn, and that's the best place to reach me. You'll also grab my free newsletter there. I have a 5-day email series as well around these topics. And so, yeah, LinkedIn's best place to reach me. You'll find my featured section with everything that you need.
And you've got a great LinkedIn. So Dominic Imwali, thank you so much for being a great guest. I appreciate you. I'm grateful for you. And we will stay in touch, my friend. Thanks so much.
Thank you, John. I appreciate it.
All right, my friends, if there's one big takeaway from this conversation with Dominic, here's what I want to offer you today. Slow down. Slow down. Take time to connect with people. It's okay if it gets a little messy. It's okay if you screw it up a little bit. But when you slow down and you take time to get to know people, you may just find that they're the kind of people you want to pull in a little closer to your network. So as you start building that personal board of directors or building your network of advocates, think about who those people might be and be open to those experiences of getting to know people, truly getting to know them, those real people that Dominic talked about. Be a real person first to them. Slow down, have those conversations, and build your network with more intentionality than ever before. So until next time, my friends, remember this. You will build your mid-career GPS 1 mile or 1 step at a time, and how you show up matters. Make it a great rest of your day. Thank you for listening to the Mid-Career GPS podcast. Make sure to follow on your favorite listening platform. And if you have a moment, I'd love to hear your comments on Apple Podcasts. Visit johnnerrell.com for more information about how I can help you build your mid-career GPS, or how I can help you and your organization with your next workshop or public speaking event. Don't forget to connect with me on LinkedIn and follow me on social at John Nerrell Coaching. I look forward to being back with you next week. Until then, take care, and remember, how we show up matters.